Morning, Bones. How you doing today?
Good, pretty good, Padre. How about yourself?
Not bad at all, man. It was a long weekend, but we're ready to rock it again today. Um, so our last video, we kind of focused on federal workers and the stresses that they're going through with this possibility of job loss and what they can do with it. So as we were going into this week's subject of Social Security, I kind of started looking at some numbers and who's affected and how they're affected by this. And I found some interesting facts I kind of wanted to throw at you. So I started out trying to figure out what percentage of the population are federal workers. What I found was we've got approximately in America 334,900,000 citizens. Of those, 1.87% are actually federal workers. That comes out to 6,262,630 federal workers. When you look at that, and let's just assume, because the number we keep hearing out there of potential job losses around 300,000. 300,000 jobs, if federal workers were to lose that, would be a 5% cut in the federal workforce. But then I started wondering, is it just federal employees that are being affected by these things? You had mentioned we've got a businessman running the country now. This is being run like a business, not like a political thing. So I started looking at businesses and what kind of cuts they've been looking at. And I found some really interesting things, man. Of the industries that are seriously being affected, the tech industry by far is the next highest. And then you've got construction, transportation, finance, manufacturing, retail, and energy all being affected. The interesting thing I found as I started looking through these was actually the number of cuts. Again, I mentioned federal workers, even with 300,000 or over 300,000, it'd be a 5% reduction in workforce. HP themselves cut 2,000 employees just in February. Grubhub cut 20% of their workforce. Autodesk, 9%. Google is offering voluntary retirement programs, and if they don't get compliance, they're going to cut employees. Nautilus cut 16% of their workforce. eBay cut 10% of their workforce. Starbucks took out 1,100 jobs. Commerce Tools, they cut 10% of their employees in one day for failing to meet sales quotas. Dayforce cut 5%. Expedia made cuts. It goes on and on. Workday, a 19% cut. Cruise, a 50% reduction in their workforce. This was just in February. In March, Block cut 8%. HPE cut 5%. TikTok cut 10%. LiveRamp 8%. And Rec Room 16% of their employees. So these percentages show me that federal workers aren't the only ones being affected by this. There are a lot of people being affected right now with businesses looking to cut. A lot of those tech companies, their cuts were made because they were bought out by larger companies, and the smaller company had to streamline to become more efficient to meet the criteria of the company that bought them out. So, what do you think about that, Bones?
It does affect private industry, and I'm imagining, well, with the figures that you put out, on a much larger scale than what's happening with the federal employee. If you looked at the statistics, there's a lot larger percentage of people being cut from their job. It looks like, especially in the communication and the digital type companies, you know. We don't hear about that. They don't put that on the news.
Right, and
I'm not sure.
that's kind of what surprised me is, we hear the outcry about the federal employees and potential job loss. They haven't happened yet, but the potential job losses, and yet just through February and March, these tech companies are really taking a loss, percentage cutting their workforces to streamline and become more efficient. So I guess the information we're putting out there about reinvention pertains to a lot more than just federal workers.
Yeah.
So the next thing we talked about, and I got into that looking at this Social Security thing. Like we said, a lot of people that we're talking to now, they're in a panic, saying Social Security is going to be cut. It's going to be gone. We're not going to have it anymore. The fact of the matter is, this is all propaganda and misinformation. I actually went in, did the research, and looked at the two House bills that pertain to Social Security and Medicare. House Resolution 881 is the one that actually personally affected me. The Social Security Protection Act was signed on January 5th, and what it did was did away with two programs that were penalizing those collecting Social Security that had been government or state workers. The WEP program, Windfall Elimination Program, is the one that hit me personally, because I had worked for a state entity where we paid into a state retirement. So for several years, we didn't pay Social Security. As a result of that, they deducted those years from my Social Security, and it cost me about $150 a month over the long run. They did away with the Windfall Elimination Program, gave me back those years, and I'm now getting that $150 a month that's going to be put back in. Not only did they do that, but the back pay for that difference is given to everybody all the way back dated to January of 2024. So we received a check for that. It looks to me like this program, and the GPO, the government pension offset, is the same exact thing, just for government or federal workers. They did the same thing with it. This doesn't seem to me like an administration that is trying to cut and harm the elderly population that's relying on Social Security.
Yeah, it seems to me like, in all facts, they're actually trying to make things better for the people that are retired, the Social Security and military benefits stuff and the welfare. Seems like they're trying to make things better. Like
well, exactly.
Propaganda.
And that was just House Resolution 881. So then I looked into the one, I had actually seen a video of a congressman right in Congress calling out the people putting out the misinformation and saying it was all blatant lies, and have they even read the bill? He gave a link to the bill. It's House Resolution 1221, and he challenged them to go in and read it and find anywhere in there that it said there was going to be a cut to Social Security or Medicare. So I looked it up, straight to the source. I don't want to watch the news to get my information. I don't want to get it off Facebook and somebody that heard something from somebody else. So in brief, I'll just kind of give you the brief rundown here of what House Resolution 1221 is. It's called the Social Security and Medicare Lockbox Act. It establishes a federal old age and survivors insurance trust fund, a Social Security surplus protection account, and a federal hospital insurance trust fund and Medicare surplus protection account. It also puts into the bill that these accounts cannot be touched or used to pay off U.S. debt. Looks to me like they're looking to enhance and protect Social Security and Medicare for the long run. They're not looking to cut it. The cuts came in this governmental effort to streamline and to find waste that's being handled by DOGE.
Yeah, you look at it, and I mean, as far as the media goes, if you look at it, the MSN has reported that they had found 190,000 different mistakes in the Social Security Department. And then on the same line, same day, the Washington Post puts out that they're struggling to find anything. That's how far apart the media is on the subject. But if we look at the facts like you did, you're probably 1 out of 6 million people that actually read what the government put out. Just a little humor there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would challenge people to go in and read that.
So then the other thing I looked at, because I was kind of looking into numbers and the population, 17.7% of our population is age 65 or older. That puts that number, okay, we talked federal workers, 6,262,000 that would be affected, and you hear the public outcry. If you take 17.7% of our population, which again, 334,900,000, there are 59,277,300 people in the U.S. that are 65 or older. Of those, 90% of them are collecting Social Security. That means that on Social Security right now, you've got 53,584,000 people that are dependent, on Social Security or as their main source of income or dependent on it as a major portion of their income. So we're talking roughly 54 million people, if Social Security were cut, would be out of income. Doesn't even sound realistic to approach something like that. The other thing we had talked about, if you put it back in perspective, of these federal workers, let's just say there's 300,000 that wind up being cut, which we don't know if it's going to come to that, but let's just say 300,000 of them are cut. These are all people that are currently working. They have job skills. They can go out. They're still viable in the workforce, and they can reinvent themselves and probably find something they like even better. You talk about 54 million people that are on Social Security if it's cut. These are people that are no longer working. A lot of them are not viable in the workforce. They can't go out and reinvent themselves and get another job that's gonna sustain them. So it wouldn't even make sense to me that the government would be looking to cut Social Security. And again, the facts of the bill's plain stated. They're looking to secure longevity to protect those accounts. That act is called the Social Security and Medicare Lockbox Account. They want to ensure that the government in the future cannot touch this money, that this account and this program will be safe not only for our generation, but for generations to come.
As it was originally set up, that's how it was supposed to be, and then along the lines, I don't know exactly how it went down, but the government started being able to get their fingers in it and use the money for other things rather than Social Security. So that only makes sense to me that they're trying to protect it for the people that are actually in need of it, like myself, and for future generations, like you said. So they're putting in protection rather than destroying it or getting rid of it. And they're just trying to cut out some waste so it can make some more money. And I know that there's been talks of bonus checks maybe being put out. Hasn't been factually proven yet, but it has been said. I read an article about Elon and President Trump talking about making bonus checks out of the money that were saved from the inefficiencies.
Right, and I've seen the same thing there, and I see a lot of people questioning, are we going to receive these checks? They're throwing different amounts out. Again, I haven't seen any factual information, as far as that goes. I've heard a lot of talk.
Yeah, it was put up as a possibility, right?
Right.
It could happen.
Right, well, and
it could happen.
That could be something as simple as somebody went, wow, if they save all this money, what are we going to do with it? Are we going to pay off the debt, or are we going to get money? Just like they talked about with the COVID checks that came out years ago.
You could keep it in perspective or blow it out of proportion.
Right, exactly. The other thing back on Social Security, we're talking about all these acts and all these things that are happening with it that all seem, the actual paperwork, the actual House resolutions, the actual bills, all look for longevity of it. The other thing, they're looking to protect the people that are on Social Security, and they're developing that one. I haven't actually read it. I've read the brief on it. Is they're going to make Social Security non-taxable. Right now, there are 9 states out of the 50 that actually charge state tax, and you have to pay taxes on your Social Security. Utah is one of them. The other states don't tax Social Security. There is an act that they're looking to put through right now, legislation, that Social Security will not be taxed. That would definitely benefit someone on Social Security if they don't have to pay taxes on that Social Security. I've actually read that as part of another act, they're looking at making it so people that the middle and lower class, anybody making under $150,000 a year, would not be paying taxes. That one might be a little tougher to get through, but these are the things they're looking at. All the propaganda, all the misinformation out there about we're just going to help the wealthy. We don't care about the middle class. We don't care about the poor. It looks to me that everything they're doing is to benefit the middle class and the poor and to reestablish our economy and get it booming again. I look at what I see with my own eyes. You hear about all these prices that are, supposed to be going up. Inflation's going nuts. I'm spending less at the grocery store. I'm spending less at the gas pump. My paychecks, obviously, are getting bigger through Social Security because of the elimination of the windfall elimination program. They're looking to benefit. Our lives are getting better. It's what I see. It's not what I'm hearing. It's not what I'm listening to people talk about. What I actually see is my life getting better and my money going farther.
I noticed a change in the money spent in my household on groceries, and the gasoline for the automobiles is a little bit less. Those are positive things. Um, People get so caught up in propaganda, and they can't believe anything, even if it's put in front of their face, which I don't understand. Why don't you look at it like we said earlier, put things in perspective and take a good look at it. Maybe go in and research and read what is fact and what isn't real.
Right.
Figure it out.
All right, folks. Today we talked about Social Security and dispelled some of the myths. Actually dug in and went for the facts. There's more information that's coming out on this on a daily basis, and we'll review that and update as we get that information.
Yeah, living in the gloom and doom of what's put out by the media is not a very positive thing. So I think we'll maybe touch on reinvention in the next segment. And I want everybody to stay positive and bring their information to us if they have something that's different than what we're talking about. Stay positive, everybody.